Okay.
So he's playing this, and he's playing against an Esper deck, and this is a matchup that I love to play.
Okay.
I think it's a challenge. I don't think Blue Eye Red has an inherent advantage here, but Andy's playing cards that make this matchup better. His sideboard is a transitional board that overloads Planeswalkers with Memory Depths, Elspeths, all those combined with Counter Magic to make sure that Hero's Downfall doesn't, destroy you. You have a density of Planeswalkers. You can't downfall all of them. You can't kill all the heroes. So.
And that's exactly what James Cowser is playing. He is playing Esper Control. Take a look at his deck list. A lot of fours here. 4 Jace Architect Thought, 4 Heroes Dissolve, 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Dissolve, 4 Supreme Verdict, 4 Detention Sphere, to go on 3 Revelations, 3 copies of Faraway, 2 Doomblades, 2 Aetherlings, which is kind of the trump in this. And the big one here, and I'm actually kind of curious how your deck does against this, 4 main deck Blood Baron of Vizkopa.
I think game 1 we have that is beautiful for us because you have all these dead Supreme Verdicts. However, Andy is missing land drops and discarding, so
which is not a good thing.
No, this game is not going according to plan.
And
so
now here is a Blood Baron. Now I said this shouldn't be a beatdown,
right?
But we might actually see a beatdown in the first game, and we know the sideboarding games don't go so long.
No, not at all. And, I don't know what kind of hand Andy kept because when you have 2 land on the draw without an Azorius Charm, it's pretty rough to keep those hands.
Or Scryland.
Yeah, Scryland or something. Yeah, but yeah, the Blood Baron's going to beat him down. But luckily, there's no way to actually finish the damage from Esper. So when he does deal with it. If he does, see, look, what does he discard so far? Is that 2 verdicts? Oh, no.
2 verdicts. Yeah.
Well, maybe that Blood Baron's going to be an MVP. We'll see.
Well, that's just going to draw a card here this turn. Looks like he drew a War Leader's Helix, and we
yeah.
know he has all spells, of course, because he was missing land drops. Got a Attention Sphere hanging out there, too. But Helix, Sphere, those don't take care of the Blood Baron. It's pretty much Supreme Verdict or Bust, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I mean, this game is going to be hard to kind of like, to basically say how could it have gone differently when Andy's not able to cast spells and he's just discarding every turn. So
discards an Is It Charm.
Yeah, and that's I added the one Is It Charm toward the end because it's such an answer all card. It counters Sphinx of Revelation, it kills things in the early game, and it acts as a 5th Azorius Charm to hit land drops if you're a dire and you really need them.
Sure.
So, so Andy's probably just thinking about how he's going to sideboard here because this game it's just tough to win when you're getting beat down. They don't have any land, but he does draw land here. So let's see what he can do.
And take a look at the Blood Baron. It still does have Pro White and Pro Black, so you cannot War Leader's Helix.
Yeah, I think he's reading to see what happens after the next swing because it becomes gigantic.
Yeah.
And nobody ever gets to that point, but it looks like it's going to be there.
Yeah, that second part of the text on Blood Baron does not come up very often, but now it's here. So Blood Baron's going to come across. Cowser's going to move up to 32. Vajda's going to move down to 8. So that thing is I think it's an 8. It's either an 8-8 or a 10-10.
10-10. Yeah, 10-10. Flying too. Why not?
Yeah, sure. Throw that on there. Makes a bunch of sense.
Yep. We only have. I don't think he has even as a second white here. Did it say less than 10 or 10? I think it's 10 or less, right?
Yeah, 10 or less life. Gets
okay, so he has a Sphinx of Revelation, but it's just not enough to even. He's going to War Leader's Helix James, but if James has a counterspell here, the game's over, and he does.
And there's a Dissolve.
Okay.
And we're going to pick up the rest of those permanents. So James Cowser does win Game 1 over Andy Vajda with Esper Control versus Blue White Red, and we expected this one to go a little bit longer, but Game 1, some mana issues there for Vajda, and he does end up losing.
Yeah, Magic, you keep those 2 land hands on the draw, you have a Dissolve, you think you're good, and you're not good. And that's the thing is, it's tough because even if you keep that, you don't have an Azorius Charm. So what if James plays turn 1 Mountain Creature?
Yep.
What hand did you keep that could beat that? You kind of got to ship those hands back and play in the blind and in the dark and say, man, I need to have a hand that can at least tango with the aggro decks and, at least have a couple more land than that. So sideboard is pretty easy sideboarding. Since he's changed it a little bit, I'm sure it's very, very similar, if not identical here. He's going to board into Wear and Tear. He's going to board in the Glare of Heresy because both those deal with Detention Spheres. He's going to board in the Jace Memory Depths. He's going to board in Pithing Needle, maybe 1 or 2, Negates, Dissolve, Aetherlings. He's going to board in a lot. Usually I board in 9-ish cards against a control mirror because you have so much to take out. You have verdicts you can take out. You can cut all the verdicts. Even though he saw Blood Baron, you still keep Turn and Burn in, which deals with Blood Baron easily.
Okay.
And then you have counter spells to deal with it as well. So he's going to cut 4 verdicts. He's going to cut all the War Leader's Helixes because those don't do too much. It'll be 7 cards. And I'd probably shave off 1 Azorius Charm. And that should, and then maybe 1 Detention Sphere. The reason why you don't want 4 Detention Sphere is because the Esper player is probably also going to bring in Glare of Heresy or some ways to deal with enchantments. I don't know if he has in the board.
No Glare of Heresy.
Okay,
here.
so he doesn't have any. So he does have Planar Cleansing, though, 1 copy. And that card is also a blowout if you Detention Sphere 1 or 2 things as well.
You see Kowser's sideboard. He does have that one cleansing that you mentioned. He also has 2 Doomblade, an Ultimate Price, 3 copies of Sin Collector, 2 copies of Gainsays, 3 Thought Seizes, none in his main deck, 2 Render Silent, and a Pharika's Cure. Render Silent, a card that we have not seen for a little while. That's the Azorius counterspell. To go along with the 2 Gainsays, which are certainly going to come in, the 3 Thoughtseize are going to come in, 3 Sin Collectors. So, he's got 8 cards, potentially 11 that he can bring in this matchup. Again, board out those Supreme Verdicts, much like he expects Vajda to do as well. You can probably board out the Doomblades, too. Yep. Potentially far and away if he wants to. So he's got plenty of things to sideboard in and out here, and I feel like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like this matchup gets very good for us after board.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's a dance you got to do. And Andy has to dance around and throw targets out there and throw decoys out there, and he really has to get Assemble the Legion going. They each have everyone's on the Aetherling plan. And it's who blinks first and gets an Aetherling in play usually is going to win. But Blue Eye Red has one other trump. It has Assemble the Legion, and like we've talked about earlier, you pretty much have Jace or Detention Sphere or Bust, and that's it. And it sounds like a lot, but when you have Assemble the Legion, you have 9 counterspells at the board. You can easily protect it against the 1 or 2 answers that James might have. So it is. I think it's actually more even than it looks. I think game 1 is in Esper's camp easily, but game 2, when we have Jace Memory Depth, you have Assemble the Legion, you have Aetherlings, and you have Elspeth, and I think James's win conditions are simply Aetherling and Elspeth, because Blood Baron, I don't think it's going to get it done. I think we saw a very, very specific situation where you have 2 lands the whole game, then of course Blood Baron will beat you, but I think in a real game of Magic, I don't think Blood Baron is going to be a big player in it.
Sure.
It's just too easily killed. If Andy decides to leave in a verdict or 2, I wouldn't blame him for it. I think he should just leave his 3 Turn and Burn in, and that should be enough. Turn and Burn is also really good against Jace Architect of Thought, because it usually comes down in -2, and then you get to kill it and burn it down too. So
now here's a big question for you. At the Pro Tour, Guillaume Wafatapo, arguably the best Esper player in the world,
right,
choosing to draw in the mirror.
Yes.
Now this isn't exactly a mirror, but you could, for sake of argument, we can call this a mirror match. Okay. It's a Revelation mirror. It's all about hitting your land drops and all the good stuff. If you were blue-white-red control, you're Andy Vajda. You are on the play. Well, you have the option of being on the play versus being on the draw. What would you choose?
I would go first.
Okay.
Not a chance of ever going second.
Not drawing?
Never. And I think Wafo I think he does it to show that even on the draw, he can just beat anybody anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, you think it's an ego thing?
It's an ego thing.
I think it's about having an extra card to hit the land drops.
You go ahead. You go first. Help yourself. Yeah, you need it. You need it. I don't need it. Yeah, he has. I mean, he's been asked about it, and he explains the extra card hitting the land drops. And even in Sealed, I go first. Even in Sealed, I decide to play, even if my mana base is 3 color or whatever. I don't know. I think. I'm sure there's some logic and science behind it, and math behind going second. I just don't like going second.
How about when you take a mulligan here? Now you're mulligan 6 in the play. Maybe you'd rather be on the draw right now, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah?
Now we're getting warmer.
All right. I know in my times in dabbling in Esper a few weeks ago, something I don't do a ton of, but I was choosing the draw in the mirror, and I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
it felt good.
It definitely doesn't hurt. It's not like, I think the percentage of advantage you get from going first or second in this is negligible. We're talking about single-digit percentage, I think. Okay. Even less maybe it might be 1%, because you're not dying quick. But even if you miss a land drop on the play, it's not like the game's over. If you're stuck on your 3 lands there, you got time to bounce back.
All right, well, that's just going to keep it 6, and we are underway here in game number 2. Steam vents to begin. Kowser does have a Goblet Shrine and passes the turn back. And, of course, in a control mirror, we're just going to see both players playing a lot of lands and passing the turn back in the opening turns. Kowser has the upside here with having multiple Scry lands in his deck, though. He has 8, where your list, I believe, only has 4.
Right, yeah. You can only run 4. It's not worth it running off color. Also, Andy mulliganing there, I don't see a white source in play, so he can't really cycle Azorius Charms or kind of hit land drops at leisure. So it's not looking that great. And we just about the beginning about this being a long matchup, but Andy needs to really get things going here with land to be able to play. And he does hit a Hollowed Fountain.
So let's see if he has a card like Jace Architect who thought this slammed down, and he does have Jace.
Probably going to see a negate here if James has it. If not, then that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes, Jace...
Is that Gainsay? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's worth countering. I mean, Jace is basically a double divination is what I have found in these matchups.
Yeah, I think Jace is very good. I think it's one of those auto counters, especially with Andy mulliganing too. Yep. And here's the problem. He counters Jace and then slams his own Jace. That's just a dream play, Yep. That's what you want to be doing. And he's going to minus it here. And we mentioned how, Andy can easily untap and turn and burn, choosing to burn Jace to death.
You see Gainsay and a Hallowed Fountain to go along with the Detention Sphere are the options here for Vajda to split up. And I guess if he has to figure out exactly how he wants to go about doing this.
Yeah, if Andy has... All right, so he's going to... I think James is probably going to take the 2-pile here. I don't think James has a heck of a lot of land in his hand. So, yeah, he's going to take the 2-pile. Andy really wants to untap here and play like a Memory Adept. That'd be a nice little play here. But then he has a Detention Sphere, so that won't work.
There's a D-Sphere.
Okay, so that's fine.
That's going to take care of the Jace for... It'll take care of Jace, looks like, probably forever. There's a... Looks like an Azorius Guildgate and passing the turn back.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
So I think I see a Revelation in Andy's hand, and that's going to be critical for him getting back in this game.
Yeah, Vajda's hand right now is Revelation, Dissolve, and a Mystery card.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even though he mulliganed and he got his Jace countered and then James got 2 cards off the Jace, I don't think it's, you know, he's out of this game yet.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I mean, you know, there's no real threat on the table as Kowser just draw a Blood Baron of Ascopa, so he did leave them in, did the Esper Control player. That Mystery card is a Detention Sphere, so those are the 3 cards for Vajda. Again, a Detention Sphere, a Revelation, and a Dissolve, and Vajda's not going to pull the trigger on his Revelation yet.
Yeah, definitely not. The only chance Andy really has in this game is if that Revelation sticks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have to find a way to make it happen. And he didn't pay 2 life there, and it's not a huge deal, but in the small chance that James does tap out, you kind of want to max out your Revelation.
Yeah,
I don't think James
want that extra card.
Yeah, I don't think James is going to do that, but in case. But actually, looks like he is going to tap out.
Well, James played his land on tap so that he could play Jace and actually have counterspell mana because now he's representing a Dissolve.
I think Andy needs to dissolve this and then try to bait the Dissolve out of James' hand. Then you can untap and slam a main phase Revelation.
I'm with you on that one. So there's a Dissolve that's going to counter Jason. There's going to be no fight.
Yeah.
So Vajda's going to scry. He's going to keep his card on top and pass, and Kowser's just going to pass the turn.
I like this. I like what Andy's doing here. I think at this point you need to stop whatever he is doing. He has his own Jace here.
Yep.
Very nice. So now Andy can set up a situation where he can Revelation to bait it and then play Jace. Problem is Andy knows that James picked up that Detention Sphere earlier. So it's like he's not going to be able to stick anything really.
Godless Shrine going to come and play untapped here for Kowser. See if he's going to maybe
Blood Baron
cast a spell. And that is going to be a Blood Baron of Ascopa.
I think Andy here I think it's time to Revelation now. And if you're James, here's the thing you fear. If you counter Revelation here, what happens in these control mirrors is that Andy on tap plays Aetherling and you lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he'll let this Revelation resolve, but Andy has to try.
I agree with you. I think now you have to pull the trigger on Revelation. So this is going to be a Revelation for 4. Going to be interested to see if he does dissolve this. This is really interesting because if you read Huey Jensen's article on the Esper Mirror, you know, he says that, you know, basically the only things you really want to counter are Aetherlings. You really can't afford to fight over anything else. There are times, of course, where you can pick your spots and fight over a Revelation, especially after sideboard when you have more counter magic.
Yeah.
But oftentimes you just want to hold that counter magic for Aetherlings since it's the penultimate threat.
Yep, exactly. And James, I think he don't want him drawing those cards, so we're going to get a counterspell here. So what Andy's going to have to do, if he rips Aetherling, obviously that's the dream here. If not, he's going to play Jason +1 draw card, you know, at least get something out there, get some more cards, because his hand is very weak.
And you see his hand right now. He's got a D-Sphere. It looks like he has a land and then that Jace Memory Adept in his hand. Might be an Izzet Charm. Can't really make out that third card, but we do know that there's a Jace. We do know there's a D-Sphere, and we do know that he's going to go reaching, and it is going to be Izzet Charm.
He's going to draw 2, discard 2 here. Interesting.
So hit 1, hit 2. Steam Vents and Glare of Heresy are the cards that are drawn.
Pretty bad here, both cards.
So actually, no. Glare is... Okay, so if he discards 2 cards, I think what he has to do now is he has to discard Detention Sphere and discard a land, and then play the Jace, and I guess hope that it gets
Detention Sphere,
then glare it.
Yep.
I think that's his best hope.
Yep. And definitely +1 here, get to draw a card. That's why I like Jace Memory Depth so much in this matchup, is because it replaces itself even if it gets Hero's Downfall. It's just another threat that has to be dealt with because you can't leave this guy out there. All right, so definitely +1.
All right, so Elevator is going up on the Jace. Milieu, draw myself a card. There goes a Render Silent. The Azorius Counterspell.
I cannot stand that card.
Oh, come on now. What's wrong with it? Counter-target spell? Can't cast spells?
I saw a blue-white counterspell. I'm like, come on, give me something here.
All right, maybe you want a little something better?
Maybe Absorb was good. I mean, it's not a broken card. Give me Absorbs back, you know?
I think Absorb would be really good in this one.
I think it would be very good in this one.
I think it would be really good, actually.
I don't think it would be broken, though. It would just be a solid card.
Broken, no. Good, yes.
Oh,
Aetherling,
no.
resolving.
Oh, no.
With double blue up. And Kaiser, we know he has a couple heroes downfalls in his hand, but he doesn't even care about Jason. This is a scary spot to be in.
Yeah, Aetherling, like, this is what the matchup boils down to. Not just even Esper versus Blue Eye Red, but just control versus control. It's who gets Aetherling out and, who doesn't have Aetherling out, and that's just the match.
And now Assemble the Legion is drawn there for Vajda, but he is behind, and Assemble the Legion is not a card that can really do a nice job of catching him up here at all. Again,
No.
Aetherling can become unblockable. The soldiers are red and white,
Yeah.
so Blood Baron does not care about those soldier tokens.
Also, yeah, I think Andy's at 14, so this is pretty much, 2 turns.
Yep.
You can 12 them here. I think James is going to dispatch Jace, though, here, and send the rest to Andy, because it doesn't lower the clock at all.
You see an attack here of both creatures. Doesn't even have to make one unblockable, so we'll see exactly where he's attacking here with the Aetherling and the Blood Baron. If he's just going upstairs and says, I don't even care about that, Jace. You can have that thing, man.
Yeah, yeah. So the game, you play this control matchup, you mulligan on the play, and then you have your Jace counter, then they play their Jace. This is just like Control 101. When those things happen to you, your chances of winning these matches are very, very slim.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's tough.
See, Vetch is going to draw a card, puts his soldier into play. We're going to go Jacing, draw a card, mill you a card. There goes your Revelation. I draw myself a Dissolve. It looks like he may have an Elspeth in the grip. He does.
But Aetherling is just death.
It's a good Magic card.
Yep, I don't think Andy has anything in his hand to deal with the Aetherling, so I think he's going to pack it up. He might make him go through the motions of making it unblockable, but he's just looking at his cards. There's nothing. Yeah, I mean, Elspeth is cool. He's going to minus it. Hope maybe he'll forget to blink it. I mean, that's what I would do here.
Yeah, maybe F6'd.
Yep, let's see if he has
Who knows?
6. We'll find out. Minus?
Says minus the Elspeth.
No.
And, James, unsurprisingly, did not F6.
No, he did not F6.
Blood Baron will bite the dust. And there comes back the Aetherling.
Yep. And Andy will fall to the unblockable Aetherling. Extends the hand. And he's frustrated. Whenever you're playing a control mirror, I enjoy the control mirror personally.
Sure.
I think it's a fun matchup. I think there's a lot of angles you can take, a lot of different ways you can go. And when you don't really get to play Magic, it's definitely a frustrating situation to be in, because it's very rarely do you see what happened here. You see game 1 domination because he has no land, and then game 2 you see this back and forth where the mulligan and then your Jace being countered. You don't really get to play a game of Magic as well. So, of course, I'm a little biased toward the blue-eye red camp right now, and I wanted to see more Magic being played there. But congratulations to James Kaiser for winning with Esper Control. We're seeing Esper Control decks and Control decks doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, long tournament to go. Of course, we're in round 3 of 10 here, so we got a lot of Magic left to be played so far. But we have seen 2 Esper decks win thus far.